Okay, so after a couple of days actually of pinning various bits and bobs out, I've got this fantastic disaster zone where my desk used to be. So I'll bring you in a little bit closer and I'll show you what we've managed to do so far. So we've got the control head here, and I've cleaned it up a little bit. It was fairly mucky. I've just given the outsides a bit of a wipe down really, and on the back you can see I've added this DB15 connector, I guess you want to call it. It's exactly what you'd get for VGA. So the idea is that will interface with... I've made up this lead for now. One end has got a regular, you know, RJ45 connector, and the other end has got the matching VGA. The idea of this is that it will connect up to a Tigertronics signal link. So because of the way that this is all configured, the Cleartone shares its ground through audio and press to talk and everything else. It has one ground, so it's okay to use this lead with only 4 pins. You've got press to talk, you've got audio in, audio out, and ground. So I've ordered some back shell connectors, you know, the covers, strain relief and everything for this, but it's all I've got right now. So throwing this together and giving it a quick test. It generally works, but I'll continue the rest of that test later on in the video. There's a huge hole here where the original cable used to poke out. There was this strain relief obviously went into here. That's obviously no longer a thing. Instead it has this. So I think I'm going to fiberglass resin that up to stop wandering fingers from poking the backs of microprocessors and stuff. Okay, so the next thing is, let's plug this thing into the radio and actually see if it functions. Who knows, I might have killed it. Okay, so it appears to function, right? I'll just grab the MTP850 here and fire this up, but I mean, geez, something I've, you know, already noticed is that the buttons are not exactly responding very quickly. Okay, so, you know, it's still receiving RF, basically. Okay, it seems to basically function. As I say, I mean, I've had a speaker plugged into it. It seems to work alright so far. Now, the menu button works alright, but the up and down, I mean, good God. Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's just got gunk behind it or if the pads are starting to wear out. That works okay. Oh, jeez. Yeah. That button's given up the ghost altogether. They work alright, no problem at all. And come on. Oh dear, okay, hold on. Right. Yeah, well, I don't know. Oh, maybe that's not programmed. I've not looked at the programming in this just yet. So yeah, the buttons are not healthy, are they? So I'm going to give that a go and see if I can do anything with that lot. Oh, jeez. No service. Oh no. This looks like a job for somebody else. Well, I've taken it apart and I'm not sure whether or not you'll be able to pick this up on the camera, but the up and down buttons and the power and emergency buttons are both pretty well flattened off. of interest is the printed circuit board where those buttons pick up. Can you see that, you know, all the others are quite bright and shiny, whereas that's your up button there, there's your down button, and across here is you know, the emergency and the on-off buttons. The emergency's not too bad, but yeah, jeez, they're all fairly, you know, need some cleaning off really. So that's going to be what I'll do next. However, if I just hit one of these with the multimeter probe here, I'm getting about 300 ohms or thereabouts, depends how hard I press onto the pad. Here 300 ohms, give or take, but on the up and down hardly getting, yeah, it's just not reacting at all. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit it with some contact cleaner. Stick that on my bench there. Soak some of that up, and I'm trying to take care that you can see what I'm doing here. Just trying to get rid of the glare off the screen here. So I've soaked up a little bit of contact cleaner off the bench, and now I'm just going over all the contacts. And you should be able to see the worst of the junk coming off there. And now for the big reveal. Oh jeez. Well, you know, that's not exactly healthy, is it? Okay, so I'm going to give that another skim and I'll bring you back. I'll give the buttons the same treatment, and we'll put the control head back together and we'll see if that made any difference. I think we're back in business now. Believe it or not, a very light press of the buttons now actually results in some sort of reaction from the radio. So, I mean, I've been through all the settings and, you know, everything works just fine. All the other buttons were fairly okay before anyway. Of the main concern was the power button, so we'll just press the power button and hold it. And nothing happens because we're already in a menu, presumably. Press it and hold it. There we go. Excellent. Okay, so on to the next part of the test, which is audio input and output. Let's go. So I think I've got the audio up and running now. What the person who sent me the CM9000 sent me this telephone handset, and the far end of it was unterminated. It didn't have a plug on it. Not that that matters, because the plug that marries up to the control head was also cut off, so there wasn't a lot I could do with it anyway. Anyway, so I've modified the telephone handset to have the same type of plug here on the back as I've modified it for. I've got the MTP850 sat here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that seems to work. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a test. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a test. Okay, well, that appears to work so far. So the next test is, can we get VOIP up and running? Okay, so I'll run you through the gear that I've got here. We've got the main CM9000, it's plugged into a dummy load at the minute. We've got the lead that goes to the back of the control head, and that's its umbilical cord, so that's this up and running. Telephone handset, I've now sorted the end of the telephone handset out with a proper, you know, back shell for the connector. I finally made myself up a programming lead, just serial to serial, straight through pins. This was done with the help of a guy on one of the Facebook groups. I won't mention his name because I haven't asked his permission to use his name, but he knows who he is. I wouldn't have been able to sort this out if it wasn't for him. We've got the lead that I showed you previously for plugging into the signal link, and again that's been now sorted out with proper back shell. We've got the signal link which is plugged into the computer currently. We've got an MCP 850 for talking to the Tetra terminal, and I've got a F22 handset for speaking back to some sort of VOIP application. So the idea of all this is to see whether or not we can get VOIP up and running. So just as a demonstration, the telephone handset plugs in on the new connector at the back here. Rather than plugging the telephone handset in, we're going to be plugging in this lead here. And that lead plugs into the signal link. And that's the setup there complete. So what I'll do now is I'll just bring you in a little bit closer. I'll fire up the VOIP application. In this circumstance I'm going to use TeamSpeak just as a test bed. Obviously off camera I've already been through all this, but I'll use TeamSpeak. It's partially set up and it'll just be easier for the purposes of demoing this on the camera. Okay, so the first test I'm going to do is from my Tetra handheld back towards the CM9000. That's going to squirt my audio into TeamSpeak, and the F22 here is going to pick that audio up and it's going to play it back. You're going to hear it. Okay, let's go. Test 1 2. This is a test. A test is all this is. Nothing to get excited about. It's just a test. This is a test only. 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, that seems to work okay. Remember, I'm not going for audio quality here. It's just for the purposes of demonstrating that it works. It is senseless me spending hours setting this up because it's going to get ripped apart and sent off in a cardboard box. Okay, so this is a test going the other way. 1 2 3 4 5. Test, test, test. There's a bit of feedback. 1 2 3. This is a test. Okay, so I'm fairly pleased with that. Everything's working both directions. The signal link repair appears to have worked okay. We've got all the buttons working just fine on the CM9000. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay, I think this is pretty much ready to box up and send off, apart from one last thing, and that is serial AT commands. So I'll just show you one last thing before we go. I'm going to do my best here with this, but I can't tell whether or not I'm focused on the screen or not, to be honest. I'm doing my best. So what I've got here is the CM9000, and it's just plugged in with a normal serial cable into the normal programming socket. And it's just plugged into a serial port on my computer. I'm using a USB to serial converter. It's a fairly modern Windows 10 machine. And because I'm using Windows 10, I'm having quite a drama getting Terraterm or any of the old terminal programs I used to use up and running actually. So in desperation I've actually turned to the Arduino IDE. That's actually got quite a nice terminal window in it that just works. Okay, so if we have a look at the CM9000, the volume level, if I turn it all the way down to the bottom, it's at the absolute minimum. Now, if I type in 80 plus vol question mark and hit enter. Okay, so it's showing volume is at 0. Now if I turn the volume up on the CM9000 all the way to the top, and now it's at the top, and I type 80 plus vol question mark, it's now showing the volume at 15. Okay, so that enables us to query what the volume is, but another trick we can do is we can set the volume. So we type 80 plus vol equals, let's set it to 10, and that sets the volume to level 10. 80 plus vol equals 0. Okay, right, so that's it at 0. So we can see the volume is at 0. If I type in 80 plus vol equals 5, and then I press the volume button once, you can see that it's jumped up somewhat, and I'll type 80 plus vol equals 10. When I press this once, you can see it's jumped up significantly again. And I'll tell you what I'll do is, to prove I'm not just faking it with the steps on here, I'll do 80 plus vol equals 0, and I'll hit enter now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the up button. So if it was just, you know, doing up, then obviously this would turn the volume up. But as you can see, all it's doing is showing us the screen, and the volume is indeed at 0 like we told it to. Okay, so that's AT commands for volume. Another thing we can do is cycle through the various modes. So AT plus mode equals, we'll put it into DMO repeater, so that's AT plus mode equals 3. And as you can see, it goes into repeater mode. AT plus mode equals 0 for TMO mode, and that puts it into TMO. And then AT plus mode equals 1 for DMO, and that puts us into direct mode. Theoretically, these AT commands should work on any Tetra terminal. There's a whole load of others on the ETSI website. It's supposed to be a unified command set, but I've had a little drama trying to implement this with later Supura radios. I might have to do another video when I find out some more about what's going on there. Obviously it must need slightly different syntax. So that's it for now. Okay, thanks for watching.